Jack Wright recently came out with a video accusing Sienna Mae of leaving us wondering if Sienna would ever respond to the claims made about her. 2 days later, Sienna's legal team responded to the video, denying everything. And Sienna also posted her own response. People aren't happy with how Sienna is handling this, especially since her response was a blog post featuring pictures from her and Jack's friendship. Today, we're going to break down everything said in her response and why people think it's not good enough. Sienna Mae's legal team was the first to respond to Jack's video. They released a statement which reads, "Unfortunately, Jack Wright continues his campaign to slander Sienna Mae with further false accusations. His latest falsehoods in the highly edited video show that once again, Jack is making a calculated action to hinder, hurt, and harm not only Sienna's reputation and livelihood, but her as an individual human being as well." Sienna unequivocally denies these accusations. Other than spreading falsehoods about Sienna online, Jack has taken no action. There has been no police investigation, not even a police report to our knowledge. No charges, no private lawsuit, and no contact between Sienna and Jack or their respective legal teams in many months. It was always Sienna's desire and intention to handle this privately versus in the court of public opinion, as she would never want to sensationalize or degrade the seriousness of. Sadly, Jack's blatant disregard for the truth has left us no choice but to address these claims publicly. Jack's false claims that Sienna at any point broke and entered his home or him are accompanied by harmful innuendo which attempt to degrade her character even further than his falsehoods already do. Not only are these attacks baseless and false, the release of his most recent video is indicative of the public narrative that Jack and some of his friends hope to use as a crutch to further their lies. Jack and his collaborators have attempted to utilize blatant shaming culture to justify their fictitious claims and have effectively victimized a successful woman of color in a way that regrettably we have seen many times before, all in an effort to use her suffering as a catalyst for their own personal gain. If anything, this letter from Sienna's legal team just made the situation even worse for her. People were bringing up the fact that there's actual video footage of something allegedly happening, which her legal team just completely forgot to mention. They also tried to claim Jack's video was highly edited, which it really wasn't, and they tried to use the excuse of, "Oh, why didn't you go to the police?" which really didn't sit well with people. Sienna also put out her own written response on a blog post. She shared the link on her Instagram and said, "Everyone keeps speaking on my behalf, so last night I wrote this. I encourage you to read it all." Sienna titled the blog post, "Sienna Mae Gomez, Reflections from an 18-year-old Me." Now, this post is really long, and a lot of people find it pretty strange. Sienna goes into deep detail about her life leading up to Jack, her past boyfriends, turning 18, and it kind of feels more like a personal journal entry than actually responding to allegations. Sienna also includes tons of pictures of her and Jack throughout this post, and it felt really strange to see. So starting off, Sienna writes, "I haven't even been 18 a whole week yet, but the decisions I've had to make as a new adult are challenging me in ways that make me wish I could go back to being a kid. If you're here, you probably know about my situation. I'm going to assume that you already know that for the past 8 months, I've been fighting a very public battle that involves topics I didn't know much about until recently. Trigger warning, boundaries, consent. For 8 long, grueling months, I have been fighting to save friendships, to save business relationships, to save my own mental health. Up until this week, I was so proud of the progress I made, like being on my phone less and learning to surf and cook with friends and value things that really matter. 4 days after turning 18, my former friend Jack Wright, the one I've been tangled with in a toxic web of accusations and internet tea, posted a 17-minute video about me. Yesterday, 5 days past turning 18, I had to say okay to a media statement written by my publicist in response to that video. Shortly after that, my legal team sent his legal team a letter threatening a lawsuit for defaming my character because that is the best next step to clear your name. I'm sure it's all hitting the media now. I've never been so scared in my life. I thought turning 18 would be amazing, and so far, it honestly just sucks. I had 3 choices I can see. 1, go and read the millionth I hope message in my DMs. 2, let my well-meaning parents and team dictate next steps and tie us up for what could be years in a legal battle with people I once considered my closest friends. Or 3, write down everything from my heart, and use my newfound adult status to take accountability and share the whole truth with anyone who will listen. To be honest, it's hard to not choose number one and actually follow through. I told my parents last night that I just want to. I'm so tired of fighting. I'm so tired of seeing the hate and people taking sides. My heart hurts for my friends, my family, and people I associate with who are getting bullied on their own social media accounts just because they know me. So I'm gonna choose number 3 for the sake of the people I love. I'm just gonna get real and bare my soul and have faith and trust that I will land where I'm meant to be. The beginning of Jack and Sienna. When I was just 16 years old, one of my TikTok videos went viral on social media, then another, then another. I asked my hometown friend, Jack Wright, to do my first big interview with me in Los Angeles. He was out of town, so he asked his twin brother Jack to go with me. I was friends with Jack, but knew James better. Both of them had blown up on TikTok a few months earlier than me. From that day on, my life would never be the same. Jack introduced me to people in LA, new friends that I had been watching online for months, to a new fast-paced lifestyle that was so different than the one we lived in our small town. We instantly connected. He was my person. We got each other safely home after parties. We had each other's backs. People noticed a spark between us, and our videos together went viral. Suddenly, we were America's favorite teenage ship, and it all happened so fast that neither of us really knew what it meant. We were thrown into a crazy, exciting relationship because the public demanded it. We couldn't make enough content together. If we went just a few days without the other in our videos, the press would run stories like, "Did Jack and Sienna break up?" And people would comment things like, "If they don't get married, I don't believe in love." Major companies were reaching out with brand deals for us, and Jack even switched agents to make it easier for work opportunities. Somewhere along the way, in a very confusing state of not knowing what was fake and what was real, I started to fall in love with him. Hype House. In December 2020, after 4 incredible months of TikTok fame, more fun than I've ever had, and what seemed like the perfect life, I got a call from the producers of the Hype House show asking me to be one of the featured influencers headlining the series. They also told me they didn't plan to have Jack in a lead role. To me, that felt wrong. He was the one who introduced me to all of those people, and I wasn't even an official member of the Hype House. Thomas asked me to join, but my parents said no. So I decided to be on the show, but only if Jack was in the lead role too. They agreed. From February through April 2021, we filmed for our show. They filmed us both in our hometown. They filmed scenes with our family and friends at my house and at his. They even filmed us in Hawaii. Well, a lot of it was fun. What wasn't fun is that the producers and other Hype House members kept pressuring us to define what we were. 2 17-year-olds being pressured again and again to answer questions like, "Are you more than friends?" And "What do you love most about him/her?" It was so confusing and emotional as we both started to realize that uncovering the truth behind a relationship, which we agreed not to put a label on, was a major storyline of the show. The more they pressured me on camera, the more emotional I got because I wasn't sure if we were friends or more. We would agree to just be friends, and then he would give me expensive or even matching jewelry or plan elaborate outings. We would talk in a quiet place and say we were just friends, and then the next day be making out with each other for the cameras. I didn't know what was being set up by producers and if it was real or fake. I told him I loved him, and he said he loved me too. I asked him if he wanted to be more than friends, and he would say, "Not yet." Rejection isn't comfortable, but it's honest. The show had to go on, so I kind of just went with it. Hawaii and the video. In May, we took another trip to Hawaii. Though Hype House filming had wrapped, at this point, the internet was going crazy for our content, especially since we hadn't posted a lot during filming because it had to be exclusive to the show. We both felt pressure. I wasn't originally supposed to be on this trip, but to be clear, he said I could come a few days before going. Looking back now, I see that it was to make content. Something on this trip was different. Everywhere we went, he introduced me as his girl. But then take pictures and blatantly flirt with other people? I was jealous, but more than that, I was confused. Why was I here? Why was he introducing me as his counterpart, telling me to wait patiently to be together if he didn't really want any of it? And then, without producers and cameras around for the first time in months, it really hit me. He liked me when he needed me for a video or for work, but he didn't like me otherwise. I asked him to make a video with me explaining to our fans that we were truly just friends. I told him that if he didn't have real feelings for me, I wanted to set the record straight publicly about our relationship. He told me we had brand partnerships riding on our fake one, and that it wasn't fair to him. I couldn't believe that someone I had created with, laughed with, and cried with could so easily disregard my feelings for the sake of money. He apologized, and I appreciated that. but I needed time away from him and our public persona to think and heal. So I went home and took time away from him and his family. I received multiple texts from James, Jack's twin, asking why I wasn't responding to them. 2 weeks later, they started posting Instagram stories targeted at me. 1 day later, their friend Mason put up a tweet implying that I am Jack. A few days later, their friend Lachlan released a video taken from a November 2020 party showing Jack and me kissing. He narrated the whole thing to make it look like something it wasn't. To be clear, James took the video as a joke on his Snapchat 7 months earlier, and they decided to resurface it. I would like to think that neither Mason nor James realized the impact that their tweets and taken out of context video would have. Though they took it all down, it really doesn't matter. The damage had been done. My character became a topic of public opinion. I lost friends, I lost brand deals. My reputation was damaged. I went from being one of the most loved girls on the internet to one of the most hated. I went quiet. I lost my will to live and had to be saved. I spent months healing and getting better. My team asked the Hype House producers to remove me from the show so that I did not have to relive the online bullying in light of the crazy Team Jack and Team Sienna sentiment online, as they knew people would pick apart every interaction between us. Netflix also did not want to be liable for my mental health. That's why I wasn't on the show. That's why producers had to figure out what to fill without months of Jack and Sienna footage. I'm sure the Hype House members are mad at me. I probably would be mad at me too. I'm sorry, especially to the cast and crew who worked so hard on the show. So in this part, Sienna just goes over her past relationships, and then she gets into Jack. She said, "And then came Jack. I was really grateful to know someone already in the social media world, and we had so much fun together. But as someone I loved and still love, I'm devastated that he made me sound crazy and twisted so many things out of context in his most recent video, to the point of literally painting me into the loud, crazy, and overly sexualized stereotype that people try to use on young, especially Latina, women. It sucks and I'm still unpacking that, but all I can own are my words, and I want to clear up a few things. I never broke into Jack's house. Did I know the code to his garage door? Yes, because he gave it to me. One of the first scenes we filmed for the Hype House show was me walking into his house and jokingly saying, "I'm home," because that's what everyone does at the Wright's house. It's the hangout house. When Jack and James lived there were always friends around, even sometimes until 2 a.m. Jack said he used to see my car at 2 a.m. in front of his house, but failed to mention that most times there would be other friends there too. I never stalked him. I never sat outside his house in the middle of the night. Over the past week, some of our mutual hometown friends have reached out. Like me, they aren't sure how to process some of what Jack is saying and are just as confused as I am. All Jack and I ever did was kiss. I've never seen, felt, or him naked. We spent several nights at the Hype House together, but I never sleep or awake. Yet I'm still being called across the internet by those who don't even understand the meaning of the word. There is a counterpoint for every point Jack made in his video, but I'm not going to do that. Did I do some things wrong and sloppy as a 16, 17-year-old girl who felt love for a guy? Yes, for sure. I admit to stepping out of a car stopped at a stop sign last New Year's Eve after we publicly fought. There was alcohol involved, and I'm definitely not proud of my behavior. After we kissed at midnight, he went and flirted with other people. At least that's how I saw it. I got jealous, it was stupid, and I'm so ashamed. But that said, he did some stupid stuff too, like chasing after a car full of guys trying to start a fight with them because they catcalled me on the street. Or locking our mutual friend out of his rental house in Hawaii because he was flirting with me. I don't know, chalk it up to being young and the fact that our brains aren't even fully developed yet. Teenagers do stupid things. My regrets. I wish I knew what I know now. I wish we had laid out boundaries that made sense to both of us, that protected both of us from feeling vulnerable or misled. I don't know a lot of other people who at 17 know how to do that with their partners, but I would have liked to have tried. I wish I knew that every time he did something nice for me, it didn't necessarily mean that he wanted to be my real-life boyfriend, and not just my internet boyfriend. I wish we knew together how toxic the relationship had become before it spun the way it did. Looking back, there were definitely some things I would do differently. My first set of YouTube videos. Shortly after the first allegations came out last June, I made 2 videos. Both are still on my YouTube, which I wish I could take back. I'm not proud of how I responded and want to apologize to survivors who I offended with my ignorance in responding to these false allegations. They were made hastily and without oversight from anyone but my brother and me. I have since learned a lot about and the psychological trauma responses victims may develop as a result of the I learned what Stockholm Syndrome is and trauma bonds, and I'm real grateful to have the opportunity to learn that so I can be a better ally to victims of understanding love languages. When Jack and I fought, I tried to fix it with love and affection. Growing up, I was taught to be communicative and treat each other with love. For me, that means love and physical affection, which means yes, I would wrap my arms around Jack just to hug him when I was feeling insecure or he was. I also tried to verbally express my feelings for him because that's what I like in relationships. We would joke about it all the time, and we even made funny TikToks about it because to both of us, at least at the time, it was funny. Looking back, I see that I should have met him at his love language versus mine, and I'm sorry for that because I think it meant we blurred boundaries that should have been stronger. My only intention was to love him and tell him that he mattered. It was a mistake I'll never make again. The importance of consent. Consent isn't really something that is formally taught in school. My parents have been married for 23 years, and I grew up watching them freely express affection to each other. I understand now that not everyone has this comfortability with affection. I understand now that when you're in a relationship, there needs to be a very open and honest conversation about consent, even before acts. Even if it's holding hands, hugging, and being affectionate in a friendly manner. The last thing I would ever want to do is breach someone's boundaries, and for that I have become explicitly aware of the way I interact with others and will do better. Jack, if you're reading this, I apologize if there were times I made you feel uncomfortable. I am sorry if anything I ever did triggered other things you have experienced or any feelings of discomfort. But anything I did unknowingly, as our physical relationship on camera was one of closeness and familiarity that I had known to carry into our real lives. That said, there is a distinct line between that and I am so sad that this is where we ended up, and even more so that I am now being used in a new and even more hurtful way. I'm growing. When I was growing up, I wished every day to be famous. Probably like a lot of kids. It sounds so dumb, but I think I kind of willed myself to where I am now. At first, it was amazing. Right now, not so much. I'm having obsessive thoughts about what it would be like to be back at my old high school, choreographing routines for my varsity dance team and waiting for my college acceptance letters. About not having to wear sunglasses and a hat in Starbucks drive-thru line at night because I don't want the person giving me my drink to spit in it because he thinks I'm about not worrying that I'm saying the wrong thing or making the wrong move. If I was a normal girl at a normal school, I would be worried about high school drama, rather than trying to wrap my head around how my decisions in response to these serious allegations will have life-changing repercussions on me, my family, and people I still care about, despite putting whatever hurts we harbor towards each other online for the world to dissect and comment on. Honestly, I just wish I had a little more time to be normal. I want this madness to end. I want people to think before they comment unnecessarily hateful things on my socials, on my friends' socials, and on Jack's socials. I'm tired of seeing people that I don't know, from my hometown or otherwise, jump on the hate train and make up lies. I'm confused that people say, arrest her, when there has been no involvement by police, no investigations, and no legal action, other than mine, since this began. I'm tired of living in a space of sadness because I still don't know how exactly one of my best friends turned into someone I will forever be negatively linked with. For so many, this is TikTok drama and tea. But for me, this is my life. To my community of supporters, I so appreciate your kind words in the midst of what has been a very dark time for me. Thank you for showing me love despite my flaws and mistakes. I recently saw this quote, "To make a mistake or be wrong is human. To admit those mistakes shows you have the ability to learn and are growing wiser." As I enter the second week of my 18th year, I'll let that be my guide. After 8 months of feeling muzzled and controlled by lawyers, agents, publicists, and parents, it feels good to speak my truth, share more than I probably should. I'm sure I'll experience some backlash, but as a just turned 18-year-old, it's all mine to bear now. So far, Sienna has lost over 400,000 followers, and influencers that are friends with her are speaking out. Sienna's friend Summer McKean deactivated some of her social media accounts and put out a video statement on Instagram.
Hi, so I feel that it is very, very important that you guys hear my point of view and my thoughts and my feelings about this entire situation from me. I want to start by saying I deactivated my social medias temporarily just for the sake of my own mental health. I saw some people saying that it just proves that I am on Sienna's side or I support X, Y, and Z by deactivating. That's absolutely not the case, and I didn't do it for any reason other than to save my own mental health. So I hope you can understand that, and I have since reactivated my Instagram, but I won't be super active on it. I have relationships with both Jack and Sienna, and I understand seeing me spend time with Sienna, you assume that I know the entire situation or I know the story. I know what went on between them. There are a few reasons why I actually didn't know anything. The first being, as someone who has experienced situations of, I like to stay as far away from it as I can, just because it's easier for me to deal with. I never brought it up with Jack or Sienna. I also feel that it is an extremely private situation that should be dealt with between the two people involved. I had absolutely no part in being a part of it, and I had nothing to do with the entire situation. The video that Jack posted yesterday I watched, and it was all news to me. And it was extremely disappointing, and it was very disheartening. It's hard to watch, and it makes me really sad.
Tana is also friends with Sienna, and people were accusing her of blocking her name from her TikTok, so people couldn't comment about the situation. One person said, "Not you blocking the word Sienna," and Tana wrote back, "Huh? I don't block words. Love Jack, he was in my last YouTube video and one of my great friends. I handle how I feel off camera and everyone knows that." It's unclear what's gonna happen from here, but at this point, a lot of people are just hoping things maybe get handled legally. As always, if anything does happen, I'll keep you guys updated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.